everyone. This is Professor Jeff Wilkerson at Luther College, and we're talking once again about what to look for in the night sky. This time for the week of April 5th, 2021, moving well into spring. And we're going to talk about the Big Dipper here today. This is a terrible rendition of the Big Dipper, but you've got the bowl of the Big Dipper here and the handle back this direction. For those of us at mid-northern latitudes, this is a fairly common pattern of stars, what we would call an asterism, as opposed to a constellation. It's part of the larger constellation Ursa Major. The bright pattern of stars of the Dipper is the asterism that we associate most prominently with that constellation. And the stars in the Big Dipper right now are rising into the sky in the morning for those of us, in the evening, excuse me, for those of us at mid-northern latitudes. And in the morning, we'll be moving around and settling down on the other side of the North Pole. So if we think about this, here's a picture of the Earth. The Earth is rotating around this direction. That's you on top of the world, wherever you are. And if you can see here, draw a line. You can't see what's below you on the Earth. You can see the sky above you. And anything that's on the axis, as the Earth rotates around, we call that the North Celestial Pole that's directly above the North Pole. The South Celestial Pole will be down here directly below the South Pole. And very close to the North Celestial Pole is what we identify as the North Star Polaris. And it doesn't appear, not a particularly bright star, but not a terribly faint star either. And it doesn't appear to move very much in the night sky because it's right on that rotational axis. If you imagine having pointing a stick up in the sky, anywhere other than that, that stick is going to sweep out a circle. But right on that axis, if you stand there and point it up, that stick just spins around, and that star doesn't seem to move, at least not very much. It's not right on the axis, but it's very close to the rotational axis. So that's the North Celestial Pole. When you draw this line of things we can see, stuff that's within that angle of the North Celestial Pole never rises or sets, and we say those are circumpolar stars. Those stars are up all the time. And for those of us at mid-northern latitudes, for those of us here at 43 degrees north latitude in Decorah, Iowa, the Big Dipper falls into that category. And so the Big Dipper points the bowl stars. That's just we're just going to start from scratch with that drawing, and to say right now, in the spring, even though it never gets below the horizon, for me, at times, the Big Dipper will be right on the northern horizon and very difficult to see, especially with the hills that we have from where I live. Looking north, you see quite a few hills. And the Big Dipper will be flat along the horizon. Right now, it's climbing up into the sky. And let's draw the bowl of the Big Dipper to look something like this. And if we take these stars, we call these the pointer stars at the end of the bowl. The handle comes back this direction, and so the handle will come back this way and curl back down, and these pointer stars point at Polaris. It's pretty noticeable, I think, that they don't point directly at Polaris. Polaris, you have to curve just a little bit right to get to the North Star that's on this axis. But it'll be the next brightest star you come to as you move along this direction, and you'll see Polaris pretty clearly. Now, the handle of the Polaris is the end star and the handle of the Little Dipper, and the Little Dipper handle's pretty faint, and the bowl's a little bit brighter back here. So you can see sometimes, depending on how much moonlight or how much light pollution or other clouds or haze or whatever you have, you can sometimes only see the bowl and Polaris, and you don't see these handle stars all that well. But if you walk from the Big Dipper to the end of the bowl of the Big Dipper up here, you can find Polaris, the North Star. This star in the handle of the Big Dipper, where the handle curves, that's a double star called Alcor and Mizar. And you can see those probably, if you have good vision, you can tell those are two stars with your naked eye. A pair of binoculars pulls them apart very, very clearly. A small telescope will show you that Mizar itself is two stars. And then if you have a spectroscope, you'll see a spectrograph, you'll see that each of the two stars that is in Mizar is also two stars. So you got stars within stars within stars as you drill down that way. But look at the bend star in the handle of the Big Dipper. To see if you can see it without optical aid to tell that it's two stars that are aligned in the sky. And if you have a small telescope or even binoculars, that'll help you pull that apart. A small telescope will help you see that Mizar itself is two stars in this setting. Now, if you go back up to the bowl, well, actually, before we do that, we can curve the handle. The handle curves back this direction, and we like to say it arcs to the bright star Arcturus in the constellation Boötes. But we'll talk about that in the future. You spin on down to Spica and Virgo, other markers of spring that we want to get to, but that's for future discussions. For today, let's stay at the end of the bowl of the Big Dipper, move up this direction, and find the North Star. And along that path, if you have a small telescope, the spring sky is full of galaxies. The evening spring sky is full of galaxies for us to see. They're faint, they're hard to see, but a small telescope, you'll see them as little smudges of light. What's really impressive about them is when you think about what they are. Hundreds of billions of stars, and the galaxy, the universe is full of galaxies like this, and really very impressive to think about and to look at. And what are we doing here? Anyway, as you step across this direction, you go out about one width of the Dipper's bowl out here, and then about that same spacing between these two stars, go up and out about that far. That region right there has two of the easier to see galaxies in Ursa Major. And there's more down here, and there's more over here, and this region, M51, the beautiful galaxy down over here. But for us, if you want to see one that's relatively easy to see, you might even be able to see it with binoculars. It's a pair of galaxies, M81 and M82. You can go to our website and look at pictures that we've taken on the roof here of those. So try stepping up one depth of the bowl and then up again that direction, and you'll see this pair of galaxies in the spring. Now, we see these galaxies in the spring, and we'll talk more about this coming up, because the disk of our galaxy is hard to see through. And in the evening spring sky, you're looking through the thin part of the disk of our galaxy, and you don't have much stuff to look through. So you don't have a lot of foreground obscuration. You can look deep out into space and detect these other galaxies. So give that a try if you've not done that before, if you have the opportunity. Otherwise, watch the Dipper, find the Little Dipper, and it's interesting to think about us rotating around and orbiting around at the same time. And there's two ways to watch this motion. As I say, in the evening, watch the Dipper pointing more or less straight up and down, rising into the sky and getting higher and higher. The bowl's getting high into the sky right now in the evening. By the morning, if you rotate this thing will have rotated all the way around. We'll be past the pole up here, and we'll be settling down, pointing down. The bowl will be pointing down toward the Earth and starting to sink back in. So you get a sense of that daily motion just in one night from observing what the Big Dipper is doing relative to the Polaris, to the North Star right there. Now, if you wait until fall, if you wait until August or September or October, then the Big Dipper in the evening will be around here, and Cassiopeia will be moving up. Perseus and Cassiopeia will be moving up into the sky to replace the Dipper over here. And if you wait until morning in the fall, then you'll see the Dipper have come back around and start to move back up here. And you get a sense of where this daily motion and the orbital motion as the Dipper changes places relative to the pole here as we move around. And when is night? You know, what the orbital motion tells us, you know, what time is night? Where are we looking at nighttime relative to daytime as we see this? Now, if you're out there in the morning and you're watching the Big Dipper settle back down into the horizon and be pointing the bowl downward in the morning, take a look. Last week we said watch for Jupiter and Saturn rising into the sky. You're looking north to see this. If you look more due east and maybe a little bit south of east, you see Jupiter and Saturn climbing up into the sky. When I walked in this morning, just a little bit before you might start watching this, about 5:55, I could see that they were beautiful climbing into the sky. So that's a great time still. We said last week maybe 5:30 to 6, get out and start to look at it. That's still a good time. So go out and take advantage of what we talked about last week with Jupiter and Saturn and the Big Dipper moving around there. Good luck with observing, everybody. Hope you have clear skies. We'll have more for you next week.